Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. Tonight's episode, Xtreme TV. I'm your host, Rob, here with RDV. Tonight, we're going to be covering the Netflix film Outside the Wire, starring Anthony Mackie of Altered Carbon Season 2 fame, and I think some other things, too. And
Falcon,
RDV,
yeah.
I've just got to say, I don't know this guy at all. I don't hate him. He kind of looks like a pissy Eddie Murphy, and people that are Eddie Murphy fans from way back in the day with Saturday Night Live will know exactly what I'm saying. Big budget movie, certainly looks like it. My initial thoughts are it's a snooze fest. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. I mean, the graphics look kind of good in it, but just boring to me. And that's one of the worst things that movie can be is just sort of there and not really memorable. What are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts looking at this, I'm like, well, Anthony Mackie is best well known for being Falcon, on Sam Wilson in the Marvel MCU movies, and I've said this before too. He's got that thing where he's got the Will Smith thing, where no matter what role he plays, he's playing himself, or just playing the same version, of a different character, slightly different. So this movie in here, it's just like I kind of wanted to watch it because I like it. I like the premise. Right now, it's a guy working with with an android military officer. So, and then we get just like robots here. It's basically like if you ever play any of the Metal Gear Solid games, there were drone android robot soldiers and stuff there too. So I kind of like stuff the futuristic like that, dystopian a little bit. But the problem with this movie is that it's Anthony Mackie. I tried to look past it, but Anthony Mackie, he just plays the same role, and it's just nothing new. So it's just kind of dull, if anything. He's a super cop. If you watch him in Altered Carbon Season 2, it's the exact same girl you're gonna get here. But the main character isn't even Anthony Mackie. The main character is Lieutenant Thomas Harp, who's a drone pilot. When I mean by drone pilots, he basically is the one that's basically normal drones. Basically the ones the military uses that draw the missile strikes and all that stuff. So he's thrown into the middle of this thing where he's supposed to go retrieve these codes, these nuclear missile codes from a rogue general who basically who holds these old Russian silo bases where and he's named by Viktor Koval. He's like, they don't want to control the network of the Cold War nuclear missile silos. But with the bad guy, he's basically just using a cover. He's delivering vaccines to refugee camps, so that, to make it look like he's not doing bad. So those two are basically like they're mismatched. You got the drone pilot who's never seen, I guess, combat before because he sits by the computer. He kind of gets shit from Anthony Mackie.
On the field,
yeah, and so seeing him in there's a scene in this movie where there's actually like a firefight where he's trying, they're over in the Russia or Ukraine over there, and it's supposed to be in 2036. It's not like right now. It's that's why it's more of a kind of a dystopian future, and he's trying to get the civilians out of this little area, this building here. And they're being taken hostage by Koval and his men. And there was a super I think the robots they use were probably the best part in this because even though they kind of look there's like CG obviously, but they remind me of what's being built today. Now they have those dogs that could carry I want
to talk about that for a minute because that'd be Boston Dynamics.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that stuff working in the military industry complex, allegedly. I've seen stuff like that, and it is pretty cool to me, especially when you go to the trade shows, and that's just what they have in public, what people are working on behind the scenes that most people don't hear about unless you're on the inside. The things are a lot farther along. So I agree with you. When I said this looked like a big budget film, it's not necessarily because Netflix spent a crap ton of money on it. It's got a lot of CGI. The use of the robots, if you want to call them that, or the side things, I thought were kind of neat because early on, like with the shootout with the drone dropping, and then later on when they pair up and they go out into the field, you get to see kind of like a unique android here and there. and they are being made for war. There's no question about it. That being said, they look good. They looked realistic. They looked like any videos I've ever seen, or demonstrations. And the one good thing about this film is it looks pretty good. But here's the thing with Anthony Mackie. He's an android. It doesn't come across that way when you first meet him, but then of course there's a really cool, in my opinion, visual reveal that he is one of them, so to speak. So I didn't really pay much attention to anything thinking wise as far as like, oh, how does he get his brain in there? How does he do that? Is he just got like super legs or super arms or something like that? No, you see like literally almost through his torso, and it's kind of cool looking, and it's kind of sexy in a way. You're like, oh, this is kind of badass. But it just, I go, if the guy's an android, why do I care about him? And to your point, he's not the main character per se, but
no,
the movie almost presents him kind of like that. So it's kind of like a debate.
He's got top billing. I noticed
exactly.
that.
Exactly. It's an Anthony Mackie vehicle starring, these other people. But I got to sit there and say, again, Netflix is obviously following the volume versus quality approach. Just throw a lot of crap out there. Who cares? We're going to turn it over. And so every once in a while they strike on something that's good or fish their interests, whatnot. I don't know Anthony Mackie. I believe you have a tendency to have a negative view of him based off, I guess, Marvel or DC or whatever films he's been in, and that's cool because
he was great in Marvel films. But I said outside of that, he plays the same role, but then it doesn't make sense because the role he always brings down whatever you're watching. I noticed that.
Yeah, it's and I don't know him well enough to make that comparison, but I think a lot of our listeners do. So I think that's very valid because you're thinking, okay, Anthony's playing Anthony, and it's like, well, if you're going to be an android, maybe you're going to be like Kurt Russell in Soldier from the late '90s or something, where you're very dispassionate. You go,
it's like we're getting RoboCop with a personality, or without the personality, I should say. RoboCop had more of a personality.
A great musician once said a very, very long time ago with a band that nobody would know or like these days, but he said, I just got tired of singing songs about robots. And that's grown on me so much more because we're being asked to take into consideration something like this Anthony Mackie character that's an android. And while it's done well, I go, I don't, why do I care? Why do I care about any of the Terminators in a movie? They're a friggin' machine. I don't care how realistic they may look or act. They're a machine. So the emotional attachment is just not the same to me. And the older I get, the less I can even begin to have that sense of disbelief that maybe when I was younger might have had in the movie, or maybe it's because it's a little bit more common now the way things are in films. But yeah, I mean, look, I didn't hate this film, but I'm going, I didn't really. I wish I didn't watch it because it just didn't do anything for me. If it really sucked, at least we could have something to kind of bitch about here or whatever. But my take on it, it's average at best or like that. Is there anything specifically to you that stands out that's really good or really bad about this film other than Anthony Mackie being in it?
Like I said, this whole movie felt like if you were to place like, like the main guy is like I said, he plays off. He's no military combat. There's a scene in there where they're trying to rescue the refugees from the Russians are holding them hostage, and then all of a sudden the military sends in their like the robo. They call them Gumps. They're basically robotic soldiers, and they surround them. And a whole firefight breaks out. It basically shows that they're saying that the U.S. military does not care. They're considered collateral damage.
Yep.
And I was thinking like, well, geez, is that what the military is? But then again, I look at what's going on in politics today. I can believe it now.
Well, I will say this because you bring up a good point with that. This movie does do a good job, especially since it's Netflix. It really, without really analyzing all the scenes, but just in general, leaving you come away from it going, well, they're not necessarily pro-war, anti-war, or political this side or that side or whatever. It's really not so much about it. That's just the backdrop. And I give it credit. I think that's the thing that stood out the most to me in this film is that it's really more about the relationship these two guys have, or I really should say the guy and the android have as far as the situation that they're placed in with the nuclear codes and all that. I didn't even get a big anti-nuclear message from it the way I was reading it. It being said a little bit in the future there too, it seems almost realistic. So I think it's a solid effort, but it's kind of like, yeah, middle of the pack. I mean, which again, for Netflix is pretty good, but yeah, if you're going to be committed some way, whether it's action or sci-fi or really political, like you could be, because this is supposed to be like a sci-fi action film, I just would like to have seen more conviction in a particular direction. Where this fails is that it's kind of like almost a paint by numbers. We're going to try and include a lot of stuff, not offend a lot of people, and it's very milquetoast to me, or whatever. And it's not as bad as, say, the Meg from a couple years ago, but it's just sort of there. So I don't know. I mean, with your Mackie radar off or whatever like that, are there other aspects about the film worth talking about?
Well, I'd say the biggest problem for me was Anthony Mackie. You get rid of Anthony Mackie, you put in like what's his name, Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren is great at doing these low budget movies like this. Mm-hmm. He's just an action star in general. So seeing him in this, they're really trying to push Anthony Mackie into being an action star, but he's basically always been the comic relief in the Marvel Avengers stuff. Even he did a movie with the guy, I forgot what it's called, but he was a male nurse. His wife gets kidnapped by these two guys, basically, and they need him to help them because they're trying to get revenge or trying to do something. I forget what it was, but it was, and Anthony Mackie was basically in the role where he wasn't the fighter, and it was kind of better because here's a guy who basically, he was more believable. Seeing him into something like this, the transition to this was just like, I am now a killing machine. I'm like, dude, you're not. I'd rather watch Cyborg. It's like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
You're right, because just the way he talks in here, like I say, he's got that Eddie Murphy thing. So immediately I'm thinking, okay, he's going to smile and smirk like Eddie Murphy. And early on, like I said, when you get the reveal of who he is, I think he flashes a smile for a second. I'm like, oh my God, that's Eddie Murphy. And I thought, yeah, I don't want to see Eddie Murphy do an action film. I don't. I want to see him do comedy. Anthony Mackie here, I'm going, if this is supposed to be an action movie, it's failing in terms of the physical stuff or whatever. And frankly, guns to me aren't action in terms of action movies.
To be fair, though, Beverly Hills Cop was not a bad action film for Eddie Murphy.
It was a comedy film, not an action film. So
it had action parts in it, though.
Well, I agree, but it's a buddy cop film.
But it was well balanced out. It was well balanced out as far as I'm saying.
This was not, and that's the problem. It's just very sort of there, like the scene where they're going into the town and they've got the vaccines, and almost just playing out like a video game. You go here's the side quest, whatever, and then you got the people stealing all the goods or whatever, and they have a soldier there, and he goes to talk to him. Mackie does, and this is the main character stays back, the drone guy. He has a little talk with them or whatever to get the guy back, and it's like, okay, it almost was tense. It almost was whatever. It didn't really get too particularly dark, and I didn't think the dread of nuclear holocaust or anything like that possibly happening was really played out in a serious way. It was certainly not tense. So it's just like I say, it just kind of fails. And overall, we're starting to repeat ourselves. So we'll finish it up. It's forgettable.
Yeah. In my opinion. Damson Idris, who plays the Lieutenant Harp, the drone pilot, he actually is believable in his role as being someone who's never fired a gun before. There's, like I said, that the whole hostage scene that when everybody's getting shot, he stands up to look going around. He's got his gun. And he's forced to kill the Russian soldier before he kills him, and then he kind of sits down and panics. He kind of freaks out a little bit. But I'm thinking, like, why is he in the field? Because I thought that was so weird because like he shouldn't be in the field unless he has more training and all that stuff. But then again, when it comes to stuff like this, there really isn't. You can do as much training as you want, but until the situation you're in their situation, it's do or die. So yeah, it just
if they tried to make it like a drama, a war drama, I think it could have worked maybe because I agree with you. He was believable in his role, and him droning people and not feeling that sense of emotional regret about it, like it's a video game or something like that. He definitely felt a little tense. And then of course you throw Anthony Mackie in there, and you're like, okay, am I supposed to laugh at this? Think it's funny? Is it supposed to be a comic release or not? Because it didn't feel that way.
Do you know what a better villain? A better villain casting? Have Dolph Lundgren play the android. Get Anthony Mackie, put Dolph Lundgren in there, and him because Dolph Lundgren can play good guys and villains. He's done it before. I've seen him.
Just play robots.
And I don't know if you want to talk about the end of this film or not.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish up with that.
The end of this filming is basically Anthony Mackie, aka Leo. He's an android. He basically just he reveals that he's a bad guy. He has no remorse for humanity. He basically wants to take control of the silos and launch them at the United States, so it stops them from getting into more senseless wars. So he's an activist. Oh, didn't see that coming. And he's an android, right? So yeah, androids, Skynet. Oh yeah, robots. So that was kind of a cheap, rushed ending. Like the first half of this movie was actually decent. The second half, all of a sudden, it's like, here's another movie we're gonna do now. But
not a fan.
And then, of course, Leo initiates the missile. So it's counting down. The nuclear missile is getting ready to launch out of this little silo. And Thomas Harp, shoots him. The drone pilot shoots him. It basically just blows the holes in his chest. He's laying there, and then he gets word from his colonel. Is like, yeah, you need to get out of there. We launched a drone strike. You have 30 seconds. And I'm thinking like, yeah, he's gonna be able to get out of there in 30 seconds. You're firing a missile at a nuclear missile. Yeah. So apparently the nuclear missile did not, by sheer luck, did not go off, and he was able to escape. But I also want to bring up, they actually do have somewhat known actors here. They do have Pilu. I can't pronounce it. It's Pilo Asbeck. He plays Victor Koval, the bad guy. He's actually from Game of Thrones. He played Euron Greyjoy. So never watched the show, but he's in that. He's in there. Michael Kelly. He's also from the Justice Bureau. Now You See Me, Everest, House of Cards. He's on there. He played his role. He's been his role as Dog Stamper, House of Cards. I was watching him. I'm like, he almost looked like the guy that was in the Jack Ryan season 2. But I'm not sure. They look similar, the actors, but.
Another fairly boring special, but that one's on Amazon Prime. Yeah.
Emily Beecham, who just came from her role in the Coen Brothers film called Hail Caesar, with George Clooney. She's also been on the AMC TV series called Into the Badlands, and then she also did some movie called Daphne, and then she starred in the film called Little Joe. So I don't. So Mandy and the main character. He's a British actor. He's Damson Idris. He is from Snowball on FX, which came out in 2017, and he also was on episodes of Twilight Zone and Black Mirror. I'm not sure if he's related to Idris Elba or not. Probably not. This is his common last name. But it's
watch or not watch. I say not watch. Do not watch this film.
I say. There really isn't much on Netflix these days, if there is anything.
That's not good on Netflix. Just don't watch this film on Netflix. We watch this so you don't have to.
Well, no, I'll just say this. I would probably recommend not watching, but I also want to say, make your own decision. Watch it yourself. You can't blame us because it's a mediocre movie. It's got tropes in there from other movies, but in the past. If you're a huge Anthony Mackie film, or actor or fan, you're gonna love this movie. You probably like it because you like anything he does. You're biased to him. And I'm not to say that I am biased against him. I'm saying I liked him in the Falcon. I'm curious to see how he's gonna do in the Winter Soldier and Falcon story on Disney. Because he's playing, and I also like it he's playing that character because that's. And I guess you could say that I typecast him myself, but you look at him after seeing him in the Marvel movies, seeing him in this, and it's just like, it's like Thor, man. I only see him as Thor,
Yeah, I hear you.
Robert Downey Jr. I only ever see him as being Tony Stark first, and then maybe Sherlock Holmes. So, But
they can remake it again in 5 years on Netflix, and maybe we'll get a better one. That's all I'll say on that.
Maybe
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Outside the not outside the lines, outside the wire with Anthony Mackie and a bunch of Netflix money that ends up being vaporware as usual, and that's what we expect, and that's what we get. So there you have it. I want to thank RVDV for showing up with me and discussing this film as well as everybody listening out there.
And I'll just say, watch the better movie called Battle of the Dam with Dolph Lundgren. It's zombies versus killer robots with Dolph Lundgren. Dude,
We should
it's a great
definitely do a Dolph. All right, guys, there you have it. Good night.